My wife from a 10-year marriage is cheating on me with a black coworker who has been married for several years with small children, knows that there is no perfect marriage. There is always a point of disagreement, verbal fights, and sometimes emotional blackmail. In a few words, one gets used to the routine. Doing the same thing, going to the same places, talking about the same topic, and often watching the same TV show. Many times you can predict every move your wife makes, and you have been believed to predict what she thinks before she speaks. But also if she is in the mood to have sex at that moment. But one morning, I begin to notice certain changes that caught your attention. But as a result of the daily routine, it is something that I don't pay much attention to. My wife started to use a different makeup, a soft type of perfume to attract attention. She also started to use a different short hairstyle but also one morning, I realized that she changed a little the style of clothes she was wearing that day. As a husband who trusts his wife, I said to myself in a mocking tone, competition between women. But something inside me created some suspicion of knowing the reasons why my wife has all that change I was observing. Maybe she was trying to impress someone. I never imagined that my wife was trying to impress a black male coworker with whom she sometimes worked on the same work project. How did I find out that my wife was cheating on me with another man? It is a difficult story to tell. First, because she is the mother of our children. Second, because of the pain you feel when someone you love betrays you. And third, because my wife cheated on me when I thought she was happy by my side. But many times as a married man and a husband in love, we go through signs that things are not going well. All the excuses not to have sex, mood swings when your aunt approaches her, always distant when you talk to her, and she starts avoiding going out with you to places they previously visited, not to mention ending a call when you walk into the room. The silly thing about all this is that I notices those changes in her when it's already too late. One morning, as a result of my suspicion, I asks her what was the reason for that change that I was noticing lately in her. She replied that she had not changed, that those changes were only in my mind. She approached me and she gave me a kiss as a way to end the conversation. But these answers, instead of reducing my fears, created the opposite effect, and suddenly the question came to my mind. Maybe my wife is cheating on me with another man. But the image of seeing my wife next to another man produced some pain, uncertainty about our marriage, but also a certain feeling of anger. That concern was in my mind for several days, and the more I thought about the possibility that my wife was cheating on me, the more I distrusted my wife, and the more, when I thought about the future of our children, if what I foresaw was true. Usually my wife always came home from work at the same time depending on the traffic. It is a routine to which the children were accustomed, and so was I. But half an hour before it is supposed my wife arrived home, she texted that she would be here much later, because they were working on an important project and she had to finish it by tonight. When I received that text from her, saying that she would be home late, I became suspicious that something was going on with my wife. The late arrivals from work, the change in the treatment towards me, the change in the way she behaves, the emotional distance and non-existent sexual activity, increased my fears that my wife was cheating on me with another man. Product of anger, the long wait, and everything that crossed my mind, as soon as my wife entered the door of the house, the first question that came out of my mouth with an angry tone was, "Why did you arrive so late?" In front of the children, she replied that she was too tired to discuss something that only existed in my mind. After 10 years of being married to me, she noticed in my tone that I not longer trusted the mother of my children. After this discussion, she went up to the room, locked the door, and then went downstairs with a disgusted face to prepare dinner for the children. For some reason, I felt guilty about the whole situation for showing distrust of my wife, irrational conduct of a jealous man who does not believe a single word of his wife of 10 years of marriage. But despite making her excuses, in which I assured her that I have always trusted her, but in my mind the idea that she was cheating on me with another man was something I couldn't stand. For some reason that night, I couldn't sleep, thinking about the children, Also the images of another man touching my wife's body, seeing his lips, touching her skin, making love to her. Thoughts which made me feel anxious, fearful, confused and also angry. Many times I would watch my wife while she slept, asking myself, what could I have done wrong? What was my mistake? Why does my wife not respond to my need for love like before? Perhaps, she no longer finds me attractive as a man. Am I right in what I am thinking, or is it just the sick thoughts of a man controlled by jealousy, who is afraid of losing his wife and also the children? I really don't have the right answer right now. Many times when a marriage is in trouble, the small disputes turn into big arguments. The arguments become louder and many of us forget that the children realize what is happening. You can see it in their eyes, in the silence around them. 1. You also notice the nervousness that they show around us, because they don't want to see mommy or daddy angry. Have no doubt you spend all day with a bad temper, and whatever the children do, minor or major bad behavior, creates irritation in the parents. Most of the times the children are the most affected by the bad behavior of the parents. Taking advantage of this situation, my wife suggested that she take all the children to her sister's house for a weekend, as a way to calm down the environment a bit, because they don't have to suffer when mommy and daddy are fighting. Listening to my wife's request, I agreed with her that she go with the children for a weekend to the home of her sister, who lives 2 hours from here, in a small city, where the children can play in an open space. For some reason, I accepted, but with a certain reservation, because, my wife in the 10 years of marriage, if she visited her sister 2 or 3 times it was a lot. As a result of the suspicious behavior of my wife, and all the problems surrounding our marriage in which trust no longer exists, on Saturday afternoon for some reason, I called my wife's sister, to talk with my children. I was surprised with the surprise about what my wife's sister said, that the children are having a good time playing with other children in the street. So I asked her, if I could talk to my wife, and her sister told me that she had left early to visit an old friend from school, who had not talked to her for a long time. When my wife's sister told me that, images of my wife cheating on me with another man immediately came to my mind. Is my wife using visiting her sister as an excuse to meet her lover? How stupid of me to let my ex-wife use her sister as an excuse to meet her lover. With a feeling of anger, I told my wife's sister, please tell her to call me when she arrives. 4 hours later, I received a call from my wife, telling me that our marriage is broken due to my senseless jealousy. When she arrives home on Sunday night, my wife and I have to seriously sit down and talk about the state of our marriage. One of the great problems of a woman who is cheating on her husband is that the man has always been guilty of that betrayal. But, also the husband is the last to know what is happening with his wife. In the most extreme cases, everyone knows that the wife is cheating on her husband with another man, and he is the last to know, for fear of the husband's reaction. Like days, and the days seemed like weeks. A million possibilities controlled my mind that weekend. When my ex-wife arrived on Sunday night, she told her that I couldn't stop being jealous, that I didn't trust her anymore, that I was seeing things where they weren't. For 10 years she has been by my side as a wife, loving, and good mother of our children. She has never given me reason not to trust her, that she would never cheat on me with another man, because she still loved me like the first day. When I saw my wife's seriousness when she told me all that, a smile came to my face, like a child being given candy. I apologized to my wife and promised that I will never stop trusting her. For some reason the explanation that my wife gave me that night I was not pleased, and more, when I tried to approach her in bed to make love, when she looked at me indifferently as if I were not there, I turned off the light, saying, looking towards other hand, we could talk about it in the morning. The next morning the same routine, as if I did not exist. I take the children and take them to school, not even the usual kiss, and I had a good time. My sweetheart was something that was forgotten. For some reason, as a result of this contemptuous behavior towards me from a wife towards her husband, it made me feel that I was worth nothing. I spent the whole day in a bad mood, sad, without hope, and expecting the worst of this marriage relationship. Some say that when a woman is angry, silence is part of her strategy as a way to manipulate her husband to get what she wants. But in our case, I felt it was something much deeper. Does my wife really not love me anymore? Is my wife cheating on me with another man? Oh, our unfounded fears created by my lack of trust in my wife? I really didn't know what to do. As a result of the marital situation, it was becoming more and more unbearable. It was in time that she spent more time at work, coming home late, sometimes with a strange smile, the kind that says a lot, and at the same time tries to hide everything. What my wife was hiding from me. It was an answer that killed me inside. I even asked her several times if she would like to visit a marriage counselor. Her answers were that this was a waste of time and money. As a result of my desperation, due to her negative attitude towards me, her refusal to have sex, alleging that she was tired due to the demand of work, and emotionally unavailable to me, one night I asked her several questions that one fears knowing the answers. Are you cheating on me with another man? You don't love me anymore? I need you to be honest with me and tell me the truth. She answered me with an angry tone, looking into my eyes, as if she was challenging my manhood, because that was what I wanted to hear. She answered me, "It's okay, I'll tell you if it's what you really want." She told me that she was cheating on me with another man, a black coworker, who knows how to make love to a woman and make her feel like she was alive. She also told me that same night that she no longer felt love for me, that she simply looked at me as the father of her children. When I heard those answers, I couldn't believe that my wife stopped loving me, that she didn't want me as a man, that she was going out with another man to satisfy her sexual desires, because I didn't satisfy her in bed. This filled me with rage, pain, desperation, and it crossed her mind to hit her, to make her feel how I felt, emotionally devastated, empty inside and full of anger. Why did you stop loving me? Why do you cheated on me with another man? Their answers were that our marriage after the birth of our last child became a routine, where the most important thing was the well-being and happiness of the children. Our marriage fell into monotony, feeding the children, taking them to school, and working to cover the expenses of the house. But, along the way, I forgot that apart from her that she was a mother, she was also a woman full of emotional needs, affective needs of her man, validation as women, but also sexual needs. I asked her why she was cheating on me with another man. Why did she never tell me how she felt about our marriage? How was failing you as a husband? She replied that over time we began to speak different languages. It set us apart. We also generated different needs which were never satisfied. I did not cheat on you with another man, because I hated you or stopped respecting you as husbands. It was simply something that happened between a coworker in a time of need for a man's affection. Sometimes when I slept with him, I felt bad for you. It was something that you did not deserve as a husband and as a father of my children, for which I take all the blame. The relationship I had with a coworker was not for love, it was just for sex, because he made me feel that I was a desired woman, full of life, where my body could express how it felt, making love with someone different, experiencing different things and exploring different ways of making love. A type of sex that was addictive, dangerous, unrestrained, limitless, full of energy and desire that I hadn't felt for a long time as a woman. After listening to my wife's explanations, I came to the conclusion that our marriage was broken. When did it all start? I didn't have the answers. So I asked my wife, what would happen to the children? What will happen to our marriage? She simply told me that she should take some time alone to think about us. That the best thing would be to separate and give ourselves time to see if this relationship was worth saving. If I wanted, she could stay at home and she would go live for a while at her sister's house. To which I replied, for the emotional well-being of the children and for them to lose continuity in their studies, I was going to leave home, that way you continue to live here. And I'm looking for another place to stay. After several weeks of separation on the advice of some friends and family, the decision was made to visit a marriage counselor. Although my wife was not enthusiastic about it, but as a way of thinking about the emotional well-being of children, she accepted the invitation. On the day of the date that you had to visit the marriage counselors, we had many inconveniences, because it involved taking care of the children and taking a date that would not drastically affect work hours. When we were in front of the marriage council, we were both interviewed separately as a way for each of us to have more freedom to speak. My wife went first and then me. The marriage counselor, after asking me several questions, did I want to save the marriage? Did I believe that visiting a marriage counselor could save the marriage? If I wanted to save the marriage for the happiness and emotional health of children, or was only think about my well-being as a man? If I really believed that marriage was worth saving? How good were the affective or sexual relations with my wife? And finally, if I really loved my wife? After listening to each of the answers to each question, the marriage counselor will talk about whether the marriage was worth saving. The same questions that were asked of me were also asked of my wife, as a form of marriage counselor to give advice taking into account the perspective of each one separately. Minutes later, my wife enters the section to listen to the advice. The marriage counselor told both of us that looking for responsibility or who to blame would not solve the problem. But, when one partner no longer feels love for the other, saving the marriage is not worth the effort. She also told us that the welfare of the children was not reason enough for people to be in a marital relationship that no longer works. That this type of toxic marital relationship produces more harm than good to the children. Ultimately, when one partner cheats on another partner, no matter how much couples therapy they participate in, the loss of your partner's trust is something that can never be recovered. Who cheats the first time, cheats a second time. Whoever is a deceiver is always a deceiver, and that distrustful behavior in both men and women. It is not easy to stop, much less cure, because the root of the lie is sometimes out of the hands of those who lie all the time, and even more so when they grow up in a dysfunctional families. The marriage therapist, looking me in the eye, told me that I could expect through emotional manipulation, begging and promises of change to a woman who stops feeling love for you, because that love has already died. When the therapist turned to my wife, she told her, looking into her eyes, "You cannot expect a man to fill her emotional and sexual needs with her, when that man no longer attracts you or you stop loving him." When we left the marriage counselor's office, we both knew what the next decision would be, in which the well-being of the children should be our first priority, and seeking that emotional well-being of the children, an amicable divorce was our only solution. Why did my wife cheat on me with a black coworker? Finding the answer is much more complex than what one expects, in which the monotony of marriage, loss of sexual attraction due to fatigue, and finally when the love that one feels for the other no longer exists. My dear listeners, if you like this type of marriage drama, please subscribe to this channel, leave your comments, and why not share this type of video.